Welcome to the Sparky Coach podcast. This platform was built by Sparkies for Sparkies. We simply exist to make business owners more profitable, or businesses more profitable and more predictable. So we want to work with people that work hard because we love working hard too, that work smart because you got to be on top of the business, people that are kind because no one likes a dickhead. Am I right? People who want results because that's what we're here for, right? And people who want to be part of a like-minded community. So if you're interested in hearing more about the platform, please reach out and enjoy the podcast. All right, Sparky Coach Pod, Crow Dog here with the Cam Dog, and we are chatting. We're chatting. Your smile fades in the summer, part 4. How to have your best November. Oh, I guess November. November, December, Jan, Feb, the 4 months.
They go in that order.
Yeah, in whatever order you want.
Hasn't changed in thousands of years.
Yeah, we just make up our own order. How to have your best summer? Do you want to give us your best Blink-182 impersonation of your smile fades in the summer?
Yeah. Smile fades in the summer.
That was pretty good. So that is it's crazy because I did those 3 last pods solo, so I'd love to hear your thoughts. And I don't know if you listen to everything I put out solo, but you should. And that's going out to everyone. But talking about how you got to manufacture your January. January either happens to you or you happen to January. And I say that you got to take control and take charge of January. There's nothing worse than turning up on January 5 solo because you've told everyone to take a month off with an absolutely booked and cooked schedule, trying to work like absolutely brutal hours with young kids or a family or no family, just like I don't have enough hours. And there's also nothing worse than turning up on January 5 to the workshop and everyone's like, where are we today? And you're like, I don't know. So it's talking about there's a really good, I'd encourage everyone to go back and listen to part 1, part 2, part 3. We've also got a December, Jan playbook, which is sort of everything that I talked about in one document. If you want that, feel free to reach out and we'll send it over. But what do you think? Because it, obviously my head always goes to how long you've been operating for. Anyone who's been operating a while will be like, a good January sets up a great year. A bad January can take months to recover from. So it's time on ground, gives you experience, but some experiences you don't have to learn the hard way. You know, you don't have to just cook yourself and I had 3 bad Januaries in a row. And that taught me, like, you don't need to do that. You can learn, and you can learn from other people, and that's really cool. And also time on ground is hugely important, and staff size is another hugely important thing too. Like, one thing that I cannot stand, and I even mentioned this to you before the pod, but just people posting when they're like, hey, we're having a well-needed break. And like, do your Instagram followers really need to know that? Go on your break. I'm not saying don't go on your break. I'm just saying, like, when you post up things like, hey, we're having a break, and your best clients see it, they're going to give you a break because they're good people. They're your best clients. So they're going to call someone else. So it's like, be really, really careful what you put out to the masses. Social media is there forever. So in other words, if I put out, hey, we're having, let's say it's me and what's a girl's name?
Stacey.
I was going to say Amy, but Stacey's mum. Let's say me and I'm dating.
Literally Stacey's girl.
Because she's got it going on. Let's say I'm dating Stacey and she's got a hot mum. Right? That's the first thing you look for in a partner. The second thing is some administration abilities. But first thing, always incredibly important. Anyway, so coming back into that, you are...
You'll be happy going to work.
And let's say Stacey puts out something on Instagram and she's like, or I put out something on Instagram. Well, me and Stacey together, and we're like, hey, we worked really hard this year. We're having a 3-week holiday at Rainbow Beach. We're going to go forward driving, no reception. See you on the 16th. You're just sort of advertising to your ideal client market, because the best clients are January clients. So if the best clients give you work all year round, and guess what? December and January are part of that. So that the best clients are operating, and maybe that's their busiest part of the year. So if you to go and advertise, hey, get stuffed, you're actually sort of shooting yourself in the foot. And I don't think it's the right thing to do. So I just feel like if you've got to be on call this year, so be it, right? Such is life, like the tattoo on Stacey's lower back. Such is life, carpe diem. So like, if you've got to have that break, So if you've got to work over that break, you just got to do it. Like, or you've got to at least go away and be available, because you know, the amount of times I have heard someone be like, you know, I answered the phone when no one else would, be that November, December, January, doesn't matter, February, in whatever order you want, right? You can say that in whatever. I answered the phone when no one else would. I went there, I did it. Now I've got this incredible client. If I had $1 for every time I heard that, I'd have a lot of dollars, right? A lot of dollars. So coming into that, it's just like, if you're available at that point, and maybe you do need to be available, that's cool. But maybe next year your goal is, I'm going to get someone else to do it. So the larger the crew, the probably more diversified the clients, the more clients you're going to have working through that break. Which is so you've got to stay available. If you've got 10, 15 staff members, probably a skeleton crew of 3 stay through, or maybe 8 stay through. Like, it doesn't really matter, but you're going to have an element of people stay through. It doesn't have to be you in the future. It might have to be you this year. So that's just my sort of 2 cents. I just think that's such a critical, from now till the end of Jan, it's such a critical time where everyone's dropping the ball. People can't get access to good to great to excellent staff members, or enough of them. You look through Instagram, everyone's hiring, and it's like, so that tells me everyone's overcommitted. When you see everyone's trying to hire, what are you hiring for? Because your workload's too much to carry. So it's like, I need to hire. So that tells me 70% of Sparkies out there are overbooked and overcooked. That tells me 100% of Sparkies are going to drop the ball like at some point, and that tells me there's opportunity coming at you. What do you think when you talk about Jan?
The thing that I tie in the Christmas January like period as one, first and foremost. So
what do you call it? The busy season, the Christmas season, the January season?
I don't know, I find it really an interesting framework and mindset, I guess, that is in the industry as a whole, because it's like, the job's got to be done before Christmas. So, you know, we've all been there, we all hear it. It's like, oh, we handed it, the job's got to be done before Christmas, blah, 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 blah. And then, like, literally, like, let's just call it, it's generally speaking, it's the Friday before the Christmas period, because most people are going to have that week off between Christmas and New Year, or yeah, at least a day or two before. I mean, yeah, I've had to work up to Christmas Eve previously. The story that resonates me is always Crowy's story about the Christmas Eve job, where you've got 44 hours of work in one day, and it dawned on you in that morning, and the car got nicked that same day?
That was the greatest day of my life. So just to paraphrase for anyone who hasn't, not an avid listener of the podcast, I woke up because Christmas Eve, let's face it, it's not a public holiday. Like, it's
not a public holiday, but also too, I think you left your run too late.
Yeah, so I hadn't done any Christmas shopping for Elodie or no one, pre-kids. I'd overbooked and overcooked the schedule to the point where I had to be somehow at 7 4-hour jobs throughout the day, which is not, let's face it, it's not achievable. But I'd somehow been like, yeah, sweet, I'll book it in. And then I woke up that morning, we're living in a unit in Cronulla, and I was like, I'm sure I parked here, and then walked around the block, and like, or maybe I parked over there, because living in a unit, you park in a different spot, especially in a different spot every night, like most nights. And then and I'm going around again, and I come back into the house. I'm like, maybe the car's been stolen. Look, oh, that's right. First and foremost, couldn't find my car keys, so I found my spare set. Me not being able to find my car keys, it happens, right? It doesn't happen to me every day, but it happens from time to time. And then I look, and there's a glass of water that's been knocked over in the unit. The back door's wide open. I got $6,000 of cash just lying in an envelope next to where he would have picked, or he or she would have picked the car. The car. I'm like, thank God they missed the cash.
Yeah.
And then got the key, stole the car. But I was more relieved than anything that I was like, and you know what the craziest thing was? First and foremost, I was relieved. I couldn't do it. Even if I physically wanted to, I didn't have any tools, so I couldn't go anywhere. Vans getting stolen sucks. Make sure you're insured for your tools and your car, obviously. That's probably a given, but make sure you've got an element of tool insurance. I thought between 15 to 20 grand was a fair amount, because it's like, that's probably all that's gonna. Not all. There's lots of just bits and pieces in the car, but if you've got 10 vans on the road, the reality is of two getting stolen at once is very, very, very low. So you're putting in usually one insurance claim for a bunch of stuff. But 15 to 20 grand keeps the premium down, and it also operates pretty good. So that was interesting. But I was like, okay, sweet. So I was firstly relieved I could make sure Elodie woke up to a Christmas tree, and which is important, and that's important. You have to set your Christmas tree up on January 1. Like if you got, sorry, December 1.
December 1.
If you've got a family, Christmas is important, and you got to make sure everyone wakes up with presents. But the craziest thing was when I called people, they were just super chill because it's Christmas Eve. Everyone's like, "Oh yeah, sweet, we'll just do it in January." And I'm like, "Oh, I put so much stress and pressure on myself to get to 17 places today that I physically can't get to, that I was going to have to let them down at some point of the day." And I'm like, it didn't even matter. And nothing else matters. Metallica style. So that's my story. But continue on. Christmas Eve.
Yeah, so Christmas Eve. So the it's an imaginary date that when you then jump onto the job the next week, it's like everyone's forgotten about it all. So my personal opinion around it is there is a lot of hype associated with the Christmas deadline, and that sometimes things can't be done. Like I remember we had a job a few years ago that the other trades weren't finished. So like we couldn't fit off the outside lights. We couldn't fit off some internal lights because they
Like put the cooktop on. There's no bench.
So those sorts of things. So what we did in that instance for that, we got everything else done, and was just like, "Hey man, we're back on this date," and it was like he was like, "What do you mean?" And it's like, "Well, that's it. Like you didn't get everyone else isn't finished." And then after that, he was like, "Oh, yeah, that's factually fair and reasonable." Like it's so like a lot of it is just a conversation around. So I think there's hype around it, right? But it's also to normal transmission resumes. Like the job's not going anywhere as well. But here's the kicker: is that today, let's timestamp it. It's the 13th of October. If you know job X needs to be finished before Christmas today, there's no excuse. Unless someone else is standing in your way. So like the brick wall doesn't get built or something like that. But there's no excuse. So now is to do the planning. And a lot of things that I find is that people don't want to put in the hard work in November and early December, and then they leave their run too late. And what I mean by the hard work is like, let's do a few extra hours today. Let's do a Saturday here and there. The biggest pressure relief that you can do, in my opinion, and in my time, is just do a Saturday. So it doesn't have to be every single Saturday, but it could be like, hey, let's identify a few Saturdays and communicate out now with your team to be, hey guys, just so you know, there's going to be a couple of Saturdays here. And if you've got a reasonably sized team of, like say half a dozen or so, it's okay if half of them can't do it, but just make the expectation known that like, well, if you can't do this one, I need you to do another one. But communicate early and schedule it out.
We'll just highlight this, and for everyone listening, a Saturday in October or November is not comparable at all to a Saturday in December. Saturdays in December are incredibly precious and tough for people to physically get to. They got like family catch ups. It's December. There's lots of Christmas parties happening. Yep. So it's like a couple of things go through my mind. Like if you can get organized and be, holy crap, I've got to get this job done. If we can put a bit of extra work into the cutout, we can save time on fit off. Maybe I need subcontractors. What you just said was amazing. Like maybe you need some extra hours in the day. Maybe you need an extra Saturday, which people aren't opposed to working. People like money.
And I think too, understanding that part is that people enjoy a bit of extra money this time of year. So it's like it's the October, November. To me, it's sort of like if you haven't got it sorted in November, you're not going to get it sorted, if I'm being perfectly honest, because those 3 weeks are incredibly intense leading into Christmas.
Well, it's the only deadline of the year. There's no other deadline in the whole year. No, if you don't have kids, you don't care about school holidays.
No, 100%. So
Easter's Easter. Christmas is the only time when people like stop. It doesn't even really stop. Like it just sort of has a few days off.
It has a pause. I call it. It's just like a pause.
Yeah.
So there's that part around like the concept of it's got to be done before Christmas. Well, like I get that. So be organized. So communicate. So communicate with your client. So like I know for a fact we've been communicating with our client. What job we spent all last week actually just confirming with people what needs to be done. And one was like, we're just going to get frame and roof on, so it's a new year. we won't be finished framing yet. Whereas another one's like, yep, we're handing over. Sweet, yes, we're handing over. Yes, we're so it's like sweet, too easy. So they've become our priority, right? Like as in this week and next week they're our priority. So it's like I know, for example, at one job, we're on next week. I think we're going to. They're not ready for us to do the internal fit off, but there's like the outside bits and pieces and the under slab. Everyone's got the under slab chamber, we call them. It's like where all the pool equipment sits and all those sorts of things. That's all going to be done. So all those sorts of bits and pieces, and I call them the time-consuming jobs because they're the things you forget about. You're like, oh, actually, we got another whole 2 days down there because we've got to run conduit down and around and over and under and all. So you just want to be aware of that because it's easy to do it in October, November, and get ahead of the game. You know,
Ultimate, to be honest, ultimate subcontracting jobs.
yes,
If you can look at a good subcontract, two tradies, trade apprentice team, or just tradie, and you can put them in a box, aka the pool room or the plant room, and be like, hey, this is going here, 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 and here, and here, set and forget for 2 days, or you've got a gap in the schedule. This is what you got to look at. You got to manufacture your schedule
yes,
a lot, like a lot. And it got to fly a couple of rules in there. Like the most important job is the one you're at. If you can't complete a solid rough in because you're too busy, that's not right. That is a hiring indicator. If you can't complete a solid cutout because you've got to move to the next job, or when we're measuring hours with people, if you're bouncing from job to job, like who's that? Tigger from Winnie the Pooh.
Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah, you just bounce around like Tigger from job to job. There's so many times when someone comes into the program, you can look at their hours and this is cooked. Like you're getting your hours in, but you're bouncing from job to job like a psycho. This is crazy. You can't tell me those jobs are happening. And if it's cost plus, not fair on the client, and you'll be losing hours. And if it's quoted, you're gonna lose money on that. So that's my gripe with the coaching industry at the moment. They're always like, "Oh, know your costs." I'm like, but you can still price. You can have your foundational pricing set up properly and quote correctly, but still lose money. And if you're not an electrician, you have no business, in my opinion, telling someone how to run an electrical job. And you don't know how to run that job. So your gut reaction will be lost money, raise prices, because you only move. You have one card and it's a red 9. So you play your red 9, raise prices when it's incorrect. It's like, no, that's a handling error. That's a handling issue. That's a scheduling issue. That's a personal issue. Anyway, now I'm ranting. Continue back to
yeah. So no, make the phone call. So communicating with your clients, right? The other one too is the next one then is around communicating with your team. So just letting them know the expectation. So if we need some extra hours or we need an extra push here or there, that you're communicating it now and you're being organized. This all then ties in with some scheduling around, so you know what's going on. So if there's 5 days here, 6 days here, 2 days here, start to put it in your schedule to see what it looks like. Really easy too this time of year. Like there's literally 10 weeks, I think it is, till Christmas. So there's 10 or 9 working weeks. Don't quote me on that one. I had it last week. I can't find my notes right now. So
I think it was 12 when I did the pod a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, so I think anyway. So I think you can literally like put that on a spreadsheet. You can print out like a calendar, old school, and put it on the wall because you're looking at just a small snapshot, and you can fill in the dates in between it, and you would be surprised how quickly it fills up and what's going on there. Now, doesn't have to be gospel. It's just that you've got the time allowed. So you might have, let's call it 50 days, for example, and it's like, oh, we have 65 days of work, and it's like, okay, so, but better to know now than the 3 weeks before Christmas when you're not going to get anyone. So there's that part there. The other one I want to touch on here is that just because you want to break at that time of year doesn't mean everyone else in your team does, right? So communicate with your team, have a chat to them, right? I'm going to say most people, and I think this is reasonably fair, and I will dive into a little bit more, but I think it's reasonably fair that most people are going to have the Christmas, Boxing Day, and then the 2 to 3 days leading up or leading after. So there's that week period where most people would enjoy to have off just through activities, festivities, doing shopping, just getting their general life in order, those sorts of things. There's also people who don't, and they're happy to work through. So communicate with your team and find out. So if they're okay, they're young, single, 24 years age, hot surfer, he probably wants to go to the Mentawais in another time of the year. So he's like, I'm happy to work. You know what I mean? So get an understanding of where your team's sitting at. So just because you want it off doesn't mean you need to force it on your whole team, right? So it's not like a forced shutdown, so to speak. So be aware of that. Um, Touching on the phone call side of things. So like, do you need to be on call for it? Do you need to take some phone calls? Is answering the phone that big of a deal? Realistically, how many phone calls are you going to be getting, right? You might get a handful a day maximum, right? And you're probably outside of maybe your best tradie or if you've got someone else in the business, they're going to be good, you're going to be great. So you're the best person to answer the phone because you can make decisive decisions straight away. It's just like, oh, hey, look, that'd be really, look, I understand where you're coming from. That's not the type of work that we're doing. You know what I mean? And that's okay. Like if it's not the type of work that you're capable of doing, just let them know and you might be able to point them in a direction of another company that you know or a friend of yours who has another business or another someone else that and that's why having um, a network of other electricians in the industry is really important to have an understanding of where your wheelhouse sits and where other people's wheelhouse sits. Having an idea of that I can take these opportunities, and often because you're the business owner, a lot of people are in like a state of flux. You can actually calm people down, so their urgency is actually not that urgent. It's like, oh my god, we've got no power. Okay, cool. Where have you got no power? We've got no lights in the office. All right, cool. Um, when are people coming into the office? Not for 2 weeks. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. So if it didn't get fixed for a week, it's going to be okay because no one's going to be there over the break. And they're like, yeah. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. No worries at all. Well, we're actually back at work next week. So we can come out there. So the emergency situation that a lot of people are calling you about is not actually always an emergency. It's just that they're think of yourself like Christmas, family, busy, intense. You're probably a little bit under pressure or a bit stressed out. So the smallest little breeze knocks most people over this time of year. So the extreme nature of everything I find and have always found isn't actually as extreme as you think. So is answering the phone going to be that big of a deal, right? Um, if you can't do it for a day or two, maybe you can hand it off to someone else in the team. But I just don't think it's that big of a deal. And I also want to preface it by saying that you can still live a life. Like, so go for a surf, go for, like, if you miss a call, just call them back. Like, it's okay. Like, you don't have to sit there with your phone in your face waiting for it to call. Like, it's okay. Live your life. So talking to your clients, and talking to your staff and getting an understanding of what do they want to do because they might have a plan to go away in the middle of the year, right? And then so if you make them take some time off at that time of year, then they take off more time later in the year. So they don't have their hot Euro summer next summer, right? So they're gone for 6 weeks. You've made them take 3 weeks off over Christmas. You've given them 9 weeks leave now, but they only have four. So then that's going to throw out all your numbers as well because you've gone from working off 4 weeks annual leave to now you've got to work off 9 weeks annual leave, even though some of it's going to be unpaid. You don't have that time to bill out at all. So just being aware of those little bits and pieces, so communicating. The last one that I want to touch on here is your Christmas commitments. Now, I'm going to say probably 50% of things are probably already locked in. So there's Christmas carols, there's Christmas events, there's putting up the tree, there is catching up with your mates, there's catching up with your family. You sort of know what is reasonably occurring around the place. If you've got children or nieces or nephews, those sorts of things. Um, I think it's really important to understand and put yourself back as a kid. Like, how cool is Christmas? Like, it is a wicked time of year. So you want to be involved in those things. So if there's a school Christmas carol, um, put it in your schedule now. If you don't know what it is, ring the school, ring your wife, ring your partner, ring whoever's going to know about it, and put that in the schedule. What other Christmas carols are coming up? What other events are happening? When are we putting the Christmas tree up? When are we catching up with mum and dad? When are we catching up with the in-laws? Those sorts of bits and pieces. What's happening? Most people have a mate to catch up as well. When's that happening? Those sorts of things. Start to put them in. They're equally as important because I've been guilty of it. Be completely honest, is that like I put them on the back burner because like, no, work's way more important, sort of thing. Like it's not, man. Like it's it's there. You've made work more important because you're disorganized. So like if you know the carols are on a Wednesday afternoon in the first week of December, just slot that in your schedule and know about it because those Christmas commitments, it's an enjoyable time of year. You know, your wholesale is probably going to have a party. Um, there could be something else happening. A few people throw things into January now, which I think is totally fine as well. But you want to enjoy it. It's a great time of year. You don't want to be under the pump the whole time. So just understanding where it is. I think a lot of it's just being organized, to be perfectly honest, and spending the time of like, oh, I'm really, really busy. Like I get that. But if you spent 2 to 3 hours or half a day, for example, running through all the jobs that you know and putting them in and understanding, be like, wow, we have 50 days of work and we've actually already got 35. So if someone calls, you know, they're like, oh, yeah, no, we can take that on. No, we can't take that on. So you've got a bit of an idea. And also, to touching base with the client you've been dealing with is like, hey, is this going to happen before? So I touched base with one of our clients the other day, and he's like, that job is going to be done before Christmas. That other job, it's not. We're going to go through some planning alterations with council. So it's like, sweet, too easy. That's all right. So you can pencil those bits and pieces in. So a lot of it to me is communicating with your team, communicating with your other half, your partner, or yourself if you don't have another partner to know what's going on. Communicating with clients, right? Getting organized around that sense, and then having a look at like what's important. And then what it will do is a flow on because when you communicate with those clients, now touching base and moving into January side of it all, is you'll know when it's open, not open. Can I come in? Now, the builder might be gone. Like he's like, oh no, I'm away from these dates to these dates. That's cool. Do you mind if we do the rough in on the first week of January and come back? No, man, that'd be amazing because if that gets done, then I can roll on. So, like Crow, you touched on there, you start to manufacture.
Yeah,
Your
you got to manufacture a Jan. And if you've got to put in some additional effort at this point in your business because it's an infant business, that's sweat equity. Like you're going to get that back in droves if your business grows. But like your business can't grow when your product sucks, when you don't answer the phone, and when you don't get quotes back, like, and when you're just difficult to deal with. So the four things I just mentioned then, plus an array of other things, are what most people creep into at this point. They don't get back to people, they don't get quotes back on time, they don't answer the phone, and they genuinely overbook and overcook themselves. So it's like if your product starts to drop, that's bad. It's really bad. You're better off what's the best way to say this is maybe like the wrong staff member is worse than no staff member, and too much work that you can't sustain or you can't complete to your standards is not a good thing. So it's, there's the say yes and figure out later, which is just a conundrum you're always sort of in. But wrapping up, what's your sort of, it's your final sign off?
final, I guess like act on it now. Like get ahead of the game and ahead of the majority. I would also too. So you know what's happening now. Put the phone call in, put the effort in, to know what's happening because it's just such a better feeling of knowing what's going on rather than the unknown, and it just becomes a. I think you just end up letting everyone down, and including yourself. Like you just feel like you're like, oh man, I'm just like it's like that constant wheel of like sun up, you're up, and you're working till sundown, and this time of year. As the days start to get longer, it's a massive day. Like it can be, I'm talking 14, 15-hour days. And you don't want to be doing that when you can preempt it. And also too, I actually feel like it's the best time of year, if I'm being brutally honest in Australia. I
Yeah,
think it's
long
amazing.
days, surfing after dinner.
Yeah.
It depends what time your dinner is,
Well,
Uh,
just getting out and about, like enjoying outside
yeah.
after work. So just get organized, put the phone calls in, know what's going on, and get your schedule organized.
Yeah, and practically that just might mean booking out 2 or 4 hours out of your nighttime, daytime, weekend, and just fleshing out on a calendar. So in the next pod, I want to talk about the opportunity that you might be if your calendar's not full, but also the opportunity to hire. So stay tuned for that. That's coming up in a couple of days' time, and we'll see you guys soon. Sure. Peace. That's a wrap on another podcast. Whatever you're doing, don't be too busy to stop and check if you're making money. And above all else, you know the rules. Be kind. See you soon.